Hi, I'm going to be looking at the levels again in Photoshop Elements 20. This is create a new fill and adjustment layer, and when you do the little drop down menu in your layers panel you will see levels, and when you click on levels you will get a new layer and a window like this will appear. And what we're going to be looking at is the channel. Looking at channels, okay? We've been through the histogram. If I click on the channel option, you'll find it's red, green, blue. And for most people, red, green, blue will be what we use a good 90+% of the time, okay? But you can also start using other channels. There's the red channel, the green channel, the blue channel. So if I click on the red channel, the histogram changes. I'll go back to red, green, blue. There's the histogram for that one. There's the red one. There's the green one. There's the blue one. And you may find that they change a fair bit. It will depend, obviously, in this particular picture it's predominantly blue and there is some red and not a lot of green. But I'll click on the red one, red channel here, and then changing the histogram, changing our little layers here. The option is down here. You can see I can change the color, so I can start to work just on the color options, and by moving my little triangles I can change the strength of specific colors in my photograph. And this is another way of kind of toning, if you like, your image, and it might be quite effective if you're trying to, as I have now, got a kind of sunset or evening feel to the picture. Again, I've gone to the blue channel. Just let's see, maybe changing that. I can just up the blue slightly, make the whole thing a little bit darker, change the way that the light is falling. Don't really want to overdo it. But you can start playing with just the way that your picture will look. Go back to red, green, blue, and you can see that has changed the whole picture quite dramatically. Maybe just bring it down to make it a little bit darker overall using the mid-tones. You can always add a bit more black if you wanted to. But now I've got a kind of evening feel to the photograph, a warm feel. If I turn it off at the bottom here, there's a little eye, toggle the layer visibility off. You can see what it was originally. That was the original image. Quite a cold image, and was just taken during the day, and now I've warmed it up quite significantly just by using the channels, the color channels themselves, as a way of doing the strength of colors, a bit like using the saturation, but maybe much more subtly. So it's worth looking at that as an option. We can also do this in black and white, so I'm going to just click on my background and I'm going to go to another option within the layers panel here, the adjustment layer, and this time bring in gradient map. And the gradient map, I can turn off the top layer because I'm just going to do black and white. Okay, it gives me a black and white image straight away. If I click on this strange bar, I can actually start to manipulate the black of the picture, and you see that as I drag that down the picture gets darker. As I drag the white one up it gets lighter. So I'm changing the numbers of, if you like, the tonal range that you're seeing. So I can do that, and I could make it darker as well. And you also get a tiny little click to add a stop. It's a tiny little arrow in the middle, and that can also impact how dark the picture becomes, how light it becomes, and you can play with that for your black and white pictures. You can see it has quite dramatic effect on your picture. So it's maybe worth looking at that as an option for doing black and white manipulation. But if you're saying you're happy with it and say OK, I've got quite a dramatic black and white image of my colour picture, I could now again go back to my going up here. I can go back to levels, and this time using the red, for instance, I could add a tonal range. Just see how it affects it. I can add a warming filter, I can remove it, make it quite blue, or make it very warm, almost like a sepia tone. If you put that back down again to 1, you could do that with the blue channel, and you could make it quite a cold black and white. So you've got a way of adding tones, colours to your picture quite cleverly through the channels. I can add a yellow, almost like a sepia tone. So it's that kind of effect you can do. And add green, you can play around with the greens. Less likely to play with greens than you are anything else, but there you are. With my yellow and green, I've now got a very much a sepia toned image. So it may be worth looking at using the channels to give you control over your over the look of your photograph tonally. You can always go back to your red, green, blue, of course. The red, green, blue, basically it's a black and white picture, but it will still impact the brightness ranges of the whole photo. So I've added the tonal range, or I've changed the tone, I've changed the colour of the black and white image, and now I can just play with the whole brightness range over the whole photograph. Okay, so just by manipulating the red, green, blue channels and playing with the histogram a little bit in red, green and blue, I can add tones and colours to a photograph quite neatly with quite a lot of control, without having to go into saturation and all of that sort of colour sampling or anything like that. I can just do it through the layers themselves, through the rather than just the layers, but actually through the histogram layer, if you like, which was this one, the levels layer. Okay, just working on levels alone. So it's quite a powerful, oops, I've probably done something else there, quite a powerful tool. I think I've added another one in, which I wasn't going to do. There we are. So we can turn them on and off. That would be just a normal black and white picture. I've now got a toned black and white picture. I can still do my colour picture, turn off the black and white one, and I've now got back to my colour picture. So by just turning these pictures on and off, or these eyes on and off in the layers panel, you can see the kind of effect that you've got with your photograph. So I go back to my original picture, there you have it, but by switching on the colour version you get that sort of effect. I can just turn on the black and white versions and I can get that effect, or I can just have a different version of colour, which is quite a muted colour one. I could of course blend them. So all of these are still options. You've still got the blending options at the top as well in your layers panel, which we've looked at in previous tutorials. So it's a matter of going through these options, seeing how they will impact on your actual original photograph, and some of them can be well worth trying. And I think certainly for landscape photography it becomes a very powerful tool. So have a look at the channels. There is auto, but auto is just going to deal with this red, green, blue selection. Okay, and generally speaking, there's no huge advantage of using auto. If you're in here, you should really be in control of it yourself. Okay, so hopefully that's given you an idea of channels and how you can utilize them to give your pictures nice tonal warming colors or cool colors, and also in black and white. Okay, thank you for watching.